Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash channel dedicated to Sigmar, and in this video we are going to be talking about why play Blades of Khorne. Now joining me in this video we have the same fella who joined us for the Deepkin, and this is going to be Jamie. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing very well, thank you, mate. And yourself?
Very well, thank you. So the idea of this video, we're going to try and keep it a bit more brief compared to like the last sort of like multi-person like why plays we've done, just because we've got a little bit less time today, and also I feel like just for a why play we just want to go over the strengths and weaknesses of the army anyway. So the idea of this video is, in case you're thinking about playing Blades of Khorne, which are like, you know, Khorne Bloodbound and Khorne Demons, or you've already started them, you want a little bit of motivation, hopefully this video will give it to you, and by the end hopefully you'll know if you want to do the army or not. So just to kick us off, we're going to talk about the lore. So, Jamie, in your words, who are the Blades of Khorne? What do they want more than anything else in the Mortal Realms? What is their true purpose?
Well, the first thing them probably mainly want is your skull, to be honest.
Yep, very straightforward of that, very honest. You know, they're not going to muck around, they're not going to be like Zeech, but they go, oh, we're after something else, don't worry, we're not going to stab you in the back.
No, they don't want to be stabbing you in the back, they want to be hacking your head off.
Yep.
And collecting their skulls for their god.
For their god, and obviously, like we say, this is Blades of Khorne, so their god is Khorne. Now, he is one of the four big chaos gods, shall we say. We have got things like the Great Horned Rat and everything else, but Khorne is one of the oldest and one of the ones that we all know.
One of the original four, isn't it?
He is one of the original four. Crosses over exactly the same as we've got in 40k for that, if you're aware about that. If you're coming from Warhammer 40,000, you're wondering if Khorne is the same in Age of Sigmar, apart from the mortals, demon-wise, yeah, exactly the same. Got the same sort of like name characters as well, like Scarborough and everything else. And Khorne is the chaos god of murder, bloodshed,
It's pretty much your war,
killing.
you know, war god. You know, if you're thinking of ancient times, you consider him maybe like your Ares
Your
from the old
Mars.
Greek. Yep, Mars from the Roman law. Pretty much, he's the one that, if you want to do well in a battle, he's the one you want on your side.
Yeah, which is cool, because how all chaos works in like Warhammer and Age of Sigmar, it's very interesting. It's along the lines of the reason why these great gods exist, like the chaos ones and Khorne in particular, is because people believe that there is a god behind all this ferocious anger and this bloodlust, and because enough people believe that, and enough creatures and enough, you know, willpower is there, essentially, you know, that is why Khorne is here. He's the manifestation of anger and like murder and bloodshed. I don't know how many times I've got to repeat those exact words, but that is basically that is his motivation. He wants to kill, maim, and burn, and that is why his followers do the best they can to satisfy his taste for violence.
Yeah, violence is his main priority. If you're going to run away from a battle, then he's not the god you want to be following.
Exactly, and
there's no cowards in his army.
There's no cowards. There's very little shooting, practically no magic. Like, he's very strict. Or,
yeah,
you know, if you want to follow
shooting and magic is something that he considers very weakly. Although he is the god of murder and like bloodlust, and you know, he's quite a chaos. Obviously, being chaos, a chaotic god. But there is honor in the way that they fight. It's all close combat. That's how they believe it's the most honourable way to fight. That's why you don't have no wizards in their army, and they don't like. There's one shooting. They don't like shooting. They consider that a bit of a dishonour.
Yeah, it's almost interesting because Khorne is, you know, like, you know, Warhammer is very, it's not black and white, you know, everything's a bit grey, who's good, who's bad. Khorne is not really a nice entity, but the thing with Khorne is he's not like Zeech, he's not like the his followers are not there to stab you in the back when your guard's down. They would more be happy to have a fight, fist to fist or axe to sword, whatever it is, like head on, not behind your back. Their champions also do like to announce themselves when they are about to have a fight, because it's like this is, like you said, they very much care about their melee prowess. And Khorne does not care where the blood flows as well. So that means that if his champion goes to fight, I don't know, let's say a vampire lord, and the champion of Khorne loses, and the vampire lord rips the champion apart, Khorne is happy because there is blood that sustains the ground. Of course, he prefers it when his warriors win, but at the end of the day, his warriors are mainly just there as a tool to cause blood flow, and he doesn't really mind in which direction it goes.
Yes, as long as there is battle going on, the one thing he doesn't want is peace. As long as there's wars going, he wants to make sure that there's a constant flow of blood and skulls coming in his direction.
Exactly, and that's why we look back at sort of like the history of like the mortal realms. When the Age of Chaos set in, Khorne was, from what I'm aware, at first the Chaos God who was getting the most power from it. He was doing the best out of the rest of the Chaos Gods, purely because it hadn't got really to a point in the mortal realms where everything was infected with disease, or there's loads of like corrupting and spies and like sort of like deceit. At the very start of the Age of Chaos, it was just full out war, bloodshed, battles upon battles, just so much murder being committed. That's why Khorne was getting loads of massive praise, essentially, or like even when it's not deliberately to try and praise Khorne, he will still feed off the the blood that flows, essentially. And that's why at the start of Age of Sigmar we saw a lot of like Korgus Cole in the Realm of Fire against like Vander's Hammerhand and stuff like that. That's why I played quite a lot on the narrative at the start as well. Which was what was it, the first Age of Sigmar box set, Jamie, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's like the whole where my journey kind of like began, as I imagine quite a few people back then would have started with the Khorne and Stormcast starter box with Korgus Cole facing off against Vander's Hammerhand. And it's like a really good beginning setting of the kind of like the war going on then at the time between the Stormcast and the legions of Khorne.
And I remember that starter box, which you can still. What they did is they split them to two start collecting boxes, one for Stormcast, one for Khorne. And I'd say, like, when that box did come out, I don't really have the models anymore, unfortunately, because it has been about 5 years or something like that. But I did actually get 2 box sets of it, just because it was such a cool box, like the artwork and everything else and the models, which is cool. And yes, that's pretty much Khorne in the lore. I mean, you could talk about this sort of thing, forever, guys. But like I say, we are trying to keep things a bit more sort of tighter in the video because we haven't got all the time. And like I said, Khorne is the god of bloodshed, murder, and skulls. There's one more thing just to say about it, is because like we talked a lot about blood. There's also a lot of things with skulls, which you'll see with his icons. Basically, almost every single warrior of Khorne is carrying something to do with a skull, some multiple skulls. And there's things like Skull Reapers, which are a more of a elite version of Blood Warriors to a point. And these Skull Reapers, what they have to do is make a tally of skulls for Khorne, for Khorne's skull throne, because he sits upon a throne of skulls. And as all Khorne warriors seek out to claim skulls for their god, these Skull Reapers have to claim, like I say, a certain tally. Otherwise, if Khorne is not satisfied, he immediately rips their skulls from their bodies and adds them to his throne. So it's almost like it puts a bit of a human element into it, where like you think of Skull Reapers and like they are really horrific warriors that, like I say, reap hundreds of skulls a day. But the reason they're doing it is because if they don't do it, it's their skull that gets taken. in a horrific way. I just thought that's like a little interesting to add towards like the skull collecting part. Do you agree with that, Jamie?
Yeah, and it's another thing what like going along with that, which is quite funny for the Legions of Khorne, is they're more than happy to kill their own, because it's the fact of, if you haven't got a skull, there's a person standing over there who's got a good skull. He's a good fighter. If I take him down, I'm proving myself as the better fighter, which is good in Khorne's eyes, and you're giving him a good skull because it's from another good fighter. And you do get this. They're quite. If there's no, they're kind of like orcs. If there's no one to fight, they'll happily fight among themselves. No, you got the little board game that came out,
Gore Chosen.
the Gore Chosen, which kind of plays on that. That you have champions from the Khorne heroes going into an arena and they fight to the death. Mainly, you're going back on their duty for honor. You want to prove to Khorne that you're the best fighter, and also you want to get praise. And then obviously, if you win, you're giving your Khorne god nice skulls as well. And like we said before, Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows, so long as it flows.
Khorne does not, exactly. And as the higher the warriors of, I'm just going to call them like warriors of Khorne, or bloodbound's probably a better way, going the higher you are in the bloodbound society, like if you get to a bit where you're a mighty lord of Khorne, just like claiming a few peasant skulls a day isn't really good enough anymore. You have to seek out champions of Khorne's enemies. At that point, you can't just stay being a bit lazy. You have to keep it up, otherwise Khorne does not really hesitate to go, well, if you can't give me skulls of champions, you're a champion, I'll just take yours. Which is cool. Just one more thing just to say about his narrative is there's a book I've been listening to currently at the moment, which is called Neferata Dominion of Bones, which sounds like a Neferata story, which it is, set in the realm of death, but it's basically Neferata's kingdom versus a empire that's dedicated to Khorne, led by a Khorne demon prince, and you get some interesting lore in that for sure. There's a bit where the like empire of Khorne is like under attack, and they have this like big defense mechanism that burns their enemies with like a demon fire. But the problem is when they're fighting against the dead isn't really producing enough blood to keep this engine being, producing this demon fire to burn its enemies. So what the Khorne Bloodbound decide to do is start murdering blood reavers to keep up their demon engine. So it's quite like they're not even hesitating. They're just like, basically I think there's a Deathbringer who says, yeah, it'd be a shame, but oh well. And then literally it's not just like, it doesn't just say like blood reavers were then killed. He actually releases a full brass stampede of skull crushers to kill the blood reavers. Like, and this is all happening while like the dead are sieging the walls of the Khorne fortress. So there's like that battle going on there, and then on the other side of the wall, the Khorne warriors just killing each other anyway. So it really is quite those little nuggets of lore, and it might have been Stormcast they were killing, but they weren't producing enough blood anyway. But I can't remember. But it's really quite great. Anyway, so that's sort of like the lore we've been talking about, and next thing I really want to talk about is sort of like what got you into Khorne. I know you said you started, Jamie, with that starter set around that time. I believe you got like some smaller starter packs at that moment. But what is it that drew you to Blades of Khorne, or Khorne Bloodbound as they were called back then?
Yeah, so back then it was like the time that we first started playing. I did have my Stormcast built up, but then it was the playing style of Khorne that made me more swing towards them than the Stormcast. Obviously, you can't not start an army without talking about your models. The models are just brilliant. They look cool. They were great paint designs. You got so many variety in Khorne as well. But going back to the play style, if I'm going from Stormcast, and back then it was like Liberators and playing defensive, you kind of win games, but you're not killing a lot. And it kind of comes down to, I preferred playing Khorne because I preferred wiping out units and hitting enemy units hard with, whether it be the Skull Crushers and the Skull Reapers that you said on earlier, or even like Blood Warriors. It's that all-out attack that I really loved about the Khorne army.
It's that sort of feeling where, as I know from someone who plays very aggressive armies, even if you don't win the game, you've more than likely had so much fun from just killing the enemy units and killing enemy models. And like a little thing we'll touch on later is that, like, even when your units die, you get a bonus in this army. So it's like it's very fun to play. I think it's safe to say. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one of those armies that, like you say, when things die, it's a bonus, because that's how the Khorne army like works. And yeah, it's going for that all-out attack kind of strategy that, like you say, whether you win or lose, you're having fun. You're throwing your units forward. You're rolling a lot of dice. A lot of things are dying. It's great. It's happy days. That's why you want to play Warhammer.
Yeah, and I'd like, my favourite like model range and everything is Death in general and everything else. But I would say, for me, in Chaos, as a Grand Alliance, Blades of Khorne, their model range is my favourite for Chaos. Now, I know I probably have said in the past that I like some Sinesh models and some Skaven models and everything else, but as a model range, there's very little things in the Blades of Khorne list of models they have where I go, yeah, I don't really like the look of that. I could pretty much have all their models. It's similar to what I said about Nighthaunt. I pretty much like all the Nighthaunt models, if not all of them. And it's the same with the Blades of Khorne. Like, I don't know, Skaven's got some really cool looking models, and some of their models are like my favourite of all time, like Vermin Lords and Hellpit Abominations and Doom Wheels. But they also have a lot of models that are not so good looking. It's the same with Sinesh. I think some of their keepers and everything else are really nice. And then there's a lot of their model range that lets them down. Blades of Khorne is... Some of them are not as new as others, but as you'll find if you build Blood letters, you realise some of their model lines are a bit old. But Blades of Khorne, all their models don't look old, I want to say, without actually... I'm going to have a quick look through to see if I'm going to take back that statement. But I think that's pretty much true. What would you think on that, Jamie, while I'm having a look?
Yeah, because when I never played Warhammer Fantasy, I think I got into Age of Sigmar a few months into Age of Sigmar, probably.
You got in before the first General's Handbook, didn't you?
Yeah, just before the first General's Handbook. And even like looking at some of the pictures of some of the models still had square bases. So I think it was the Skull Reapers still had square bases on their online picture at first. The Juggernauts still had square bases, but they hold up really well. Like the Skull Reapers definitely hold up. I know, like Blood Warriors, I think were new. Blood Reavers were new.
Yep.
But I think the Skull Crushers and like the Demon versions as well, obviously quite old. But like I say, apart from a few mold lines, the kits are still awesome. And the Skull Reapers is a brilliant kit with the Wrathmongers,
and
which is another good thing. Obviously, it's a two-part kit, so you get a lot of pieces in there.
Definitely, and something I'd say with the Wrathmongers and Skull Reapers is I think they're really cool. I prefer Wrathmongers more than Skull Reapers, just because I prefer the look of the models. That's partly with some of the Skull Reapers. I find some of their heads are just a bit too weird for me, if I'm honest. But like as Jamie has done, you can just use like the Wrathmonger heads for some of the.
Oh yeah, you got the Wrathmonger heads fit fine on now. See the same kit. Also, like the Juggernaut heads and Blood Warrior heads all fit nicely in proportion.
Yeah, there's
very few resin. I think only a few of the old style heroes
and that has
I've gone
got,
into resin now.
yeah, you've got like Valkyria, you've got like, I think there's like an old Deathbringer here with the shield. I'm pretty sure to resin. There are a few, but there are a lot less than there used to be. Something I was over the moon to see was they updated potentially my favourite models and just like idea of models in the Blades of Khorne army, which is the Fleshhounds. They had some really old looking models that basically, which I would say look down the range. They made the range of Blades of Khorne not look as good, but the new models.
Yeah, definitely. They would probably be the one unit, probably like touching on that. They probably would consider wanting alternatives because they were old models. Resin didn't look that great, but now they've got the new ones. They're like the new ones are just amazing.
The only thing I would say is they're the leader, Kariak, is it? Karnak, however you pronounce it. I think they could have done a bit better with it. I feel like they should have made it a little bit bigger of a model, just to make its three heads look a bit better, rather than they're all just like jammed in there. It's a bit of a kit bash. But apart from that, and I say that, I mean, I still do like the model. I'm just nitpicking, but no, the range is really cool. So it's mainly the range that drew you to Khorne, and the lore's not too complicated to just get into it, but you can expand on it in a lot of ways. Like I know you've got some lore behind your army, and like for me, for a Khorne army, I'm building up a bit of slow time. Is a Khorne army, but it is blood dragon vampires, so they're all vampires. So they are, it's an undeath army, but they are dedicated to Khorne because the blood dragons and the blood knights are all about combat and like melee prowess. So it very much fits Khorne's theme. There are examples in lore of where like blood dragon vampires have joined Khorne, and that's the idea behind my one, and it links into the rest of my death lore that links into the rest of my armies. I
suppose we should kind of touch on that in terms of the good thing about a Khorne army is that you have access to the most expensive unit in the whole entire game.
Yes, so when Jamie says that, so when I say like I'm building an army slow time, I have only like basically kind of built one model for it so far, but that has to be, I don't know, I want to say absolutely the number one, but if not, certainly one of the number one models for me in all of Age of Sigmar, which if you're watching the screen now, you can see me get up the forward for website, and that has to be Vargaroth, what's his name? Vargaroth the Scarred and Skolok the Skull Host of Khorne. Now the only bad thing about this model is the rider. His head is atrocious, but I've got a replacement for that, so that's fine, which you'll see at some point in the future. But this model is just fantastic. It's the biggest by far in all of Age of Sigmar. It is glorious. It is also going to cost you £394. Now I would say I bought mine about a year ago and it cost me like £370. So that has steadily been going up slowly, but it's a beauty.
It is an absolute beautiful model. We saw it up in, if you're lucky enough to go to Warhammer World, it's on display. Absolute gorgeous model. And ginormous, and it you don't believe how big it is until you see it in person.
And it's one of those things. Yeah, sorry to keep interrupting you, but it's just like I've sent you photos, haven't I? Where I've put this thing next to a skink, and it's like they belong to different games. I've put like I think I can fit like 2 or 3 skinks in its mouth. Like you know.
Well, you was comparing it recently to the Stormcast Dragon, Star Drake. And featuring, you probably would consider that in normal Age of Sigmar, the Star Drake is probably one of the biggest kind of models you can go.
Yeah, it's a big model. It stands out on the table certainly without putting things like Arcane on the table. It's more likely going to be the biggest model there. And then if you can see the screen now, if you're watching it, we've got, I know Jamie can't see this, but I've got the Khorne Dragon up here, and on this model you can see that it has its like left claw out, and then its right paw or claw, whatever you want to call it, is resting on like a pillar of rock, which is sort of breaking underneath its weight. Now my plan is I actually bought a Star Drake to put instead of the pillar. So the whole idea is there's been a battle in the sky. This Khorne dragon has beaten a Lord Thurston on Star Drake and then brought him crashing back down to the ground, where the Khorne dragon is gripping the Star Drake, ripping into it, and then the Star Drake is giving out one more last roar scream, similar to like where Smaug in the Battle of Five Armies, after it destroys Lake Town, sort of like its life fades from its eyes and it comes crashing back down. You know, that sort of like last moment of life before death. And the Khorne dragon's going to be ripping into it. It's going to be, I was going to have it as my sort of proudest conversion that I've done, or just like kit bash, whatever you want to call it, like hobby stuff. But unfortunately, the Star Drake, and I bought the Star Drake for like £85, how much ever it cost, most expensive Stormcast thing I've ever bought. But the reason I'm telling you guys this is because you'll never see me do that idea, because it's not going to work, because the Star Drake is far too small.
And it's funny that it's too small. It's too small of a problem.
Yeah, I think I remember telling you first time, and you're like, "But it's like one of the biggest dragons in the game." It's like, yeah, it's still too small. And at some point in the future, guys, I'll put up a picture like comparison, because I will build a Star Drake. I'm not just going to let £85 sit there like the rest of my shame pile. And I will do like a comparison picture, but like it is like.
It's like you don't need any other reason to play a Khorne army other than you can have the biggest model in the whole entire game on the table.
Yeah, 100%. Now the elephant in the room is this model costs like lovely if it costs 100 something, but no, it costs like 1,200 points, I believe. So the question is it worth that many points? Is it that devastating game? Right, okay, let's just get out there. No, it's not worth that many points. There are better things to take than that. It's not the most competitive way to build your army, but it is fucking fantastic. And if you take this to
you're going to have a lot of fun, and a lot of people are going to be going around your table.
Yeah, you bring this to a tournament, everyone's going to come to your table. There was
we saw it, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it at a tournament, and I think, to be fair to him, I think the guy came third. So like it was Throne of Skulls, so I think it's a bit not as super competitive as some of these grand tournaments, but like still fair play to that guy. And like I say, is it the most competitive thing you can put in your army for how many points? Absolutely not. But is it just a load of trash in game? No, it's not. Probably really one of the biggest weaknesses about this model in the game, it's just its size. It's just hard to move around, but the enemies come to it. It is absolutely fantastic. It is the rules reflect the model. There's a couple of niggling things, like when this thing charges, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch, like you roll a dice and like on a 4-up or something it takes D3 more wounds. So this thing charges something, it should just take D6 more wounds. I mean, there should be no rolling around. But it's beautiful. I love it how there's an ability to have this thing set up in the sky for it to like deep strike in the game later, like your opponent's going to leave a space for it to land. But it is beautiful. When I first saw that, I know this video has basically gone on to let's talk about why buy the Khorne Dragon. But when I saw this at an open day at Age of Sigmar like 4 years ago or something like that, they had this as concept on a table, and I was so amazed by how cool it looked. The rider looked cooler then as well. I had a helmet and everything. Shame they changed that, but so amazed of how cool this model looked. I was like, if that's under £500 when they finally release it, I'll buy it. Or if it was like up to £500, if it was like within a reasonable amount, if you can call that a reasonable amount, I'll buy it one day. And it came out and it was 375, something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to get it. I'm gonna have to get it one day. And then you were with me, weren't you, when we got it? And and it was sort of like, what was it like? It was on a Sunday after a tournament, and it was 1 minute to close in, and I haven't decided on what I got. And like you bought a couple of smaller things, like a Phoenix, Assassin, some Drake Spawn Knights, that sort of thing. And I was just like, and because you basically bought stuff, to buy from up there at Warhammer World that you would normally have to order down at Gnaw Games Workshop. And I was there and I was like, I haven't bought anything, and I'm fed up because I've been the last like 5 years ago into Warhammer World. I go like once a year, and I never really buy anything, and I'm just like, because I'm like, should I not? And I just saw this thing, and I was like, and I saw a box, and I was like, they only have one in stock, and I was like, Yeah, I'll take it. Like with 1 minute to close in, and I was like, I'll buy the battle tome as well. I fully know it's not in the battle tome, but I'll buy it as well. And
And that's the start of your corn journey.
that's the start of my corn journey. Ironically enough, I think I left Nagash in the Warhammer store, so I had to arrange. Someone I knew who works there had to arrange for them to reopen Warhammer World to try and give me back my Nagash.
Nagash got forgotten about and
Yeah,
replaced for a corn dragon.
It was at the end of the tournament, and it was at the end of the tournament that guy came third as well, from what I believe. So, like, after seeing the model, it was. I mean, like, unless you really don't like the model, like, let's say you're okay. Let's just say flat out, you're a fan of Khorne, that sort of thing. Who wouldn't want this in their army if you like Khorne? Like,
Yeah, or as a massive display piece that you'll get out for, just to have a good fun game.
just to say, this thing, in case you're wondering, you've got one of those generic IKEA cabinets where if you've got a cabinet in our hobby, 80% of people have that IKEA one that costs like £40. This will not fit in it. Just a pre-warning. It's
Need to start up it in the game, don't you? It needs a big ass fish tank.
well, I looked at getting like a proper cabinet for it, like like the one they have like in the Forge World store or something, like a proper nice one. And I'm sort of looking like up to £500. I'm like, I haven't even got the space to put it somewhere, let alone spend that much money on it. I almost forget what I'm talking about, the Corn Dragon or the cabinet. But like, you've got, and like the amount of money I spent on this, I can't do the Star Trek idea, but like by the time this model's done, it will cost up to £600 worth of stuff. But it will be fantastic. Like it's a lovely model. Right, I'm concerned that we've talked about this model for too long, but we could not mention it. It is,
it is the big boy.
Absolutely fantastic. Like out of all the, just one last thing to say about it. Like, if it wasn't going to be an undead zombie dragon, get that out of the way. If someone was to get a dragon in Age of Sigmar, it has to be Khorne. Like we said, Khorne models are cool anyway. So if Khorne was to get a dragon, like before you even seen a picture of it, you're like, yeah, it's gonna look awesome.
Yeah, it's got to be like a shit your pants kind of dragon.
Yeah, this thing is actually like a little bit of lore behind it, because when you buy it, they do nicely give you a thin booklet that I'm sure they can cost them that much to print out. A bit of lore behind it is so you've got Volgarath the Scarred, who's the guy who rides it. He is champion of Khorne who went to seek a mighty skull to take for Khorne, and I think he heard of this god beast. And this dragon's actually, it's not just a big dragon, it's a god beast, which is something in Age of Sigmar, which is like, some of them range like the size of a continent. So it's quite, having the title god beast is massive. So he went after this thing and found it in a cave, and they literally had a battle that went on for ages, forever, to the point where they're just stalemate the whole time, because they were both such good champions. I mean, I don't know how the dragon didn't just kill him outright, but there we are. So Khorne looked down and said, right, you two are too good to just try and kill each other for the rest of your lives. You're going to work together, and then bound them to each other. So they actually hate each other, the dragon and the rider. They can't stand each other. And I think Scarlock, the skull host of Khorne, I think it's a woman. It does look like someone who's very good at screaming at you. So I imagine that's what it is. Very bad like relationship they have going on there. But right, okay. So we've talking about the Khorne Dragon for the last 20 minutes. Let's move on. So that's what I think we've talked about lore and why would you find it's cool to do this army enough. So let's sort of just talk about overall strengths and weaknesses in this army. Like we say, we're not going to go through individual units and war scrolls, but as an overall feel, Jamie, I feel I've talked a lot. So what would you say the strengths are for Blades of Khorne?
Well, probably the most obvious one being in close combat. If you're not in close combat, you're not really doing it right. Their main strength is you want to be fighting, whether it's throwing units to actually die, because touch on like the Legion's abilities. The Blood Tithe gives you rewards for each unit that dies. So if you want to be using these abilities, you want a constant flow of things dying, whether it be your sacrifice units, which Khorne kind of plays differently in. You use meat shields rather than tank units. You set up your blood reavers that are just, unless you want to build them for damage, are your meat shield. You run them forward, you let them die, you get your little reward from Khorne for them dying, and then you kill the thing that kills them with a stronger unit.
Yeah.
They obviously really lack shooting, but then that's not why you want to be playing this army.
No,
you want to be playing this army to run forward, get in your opponent's face, and hack away with melee attacks.
Yeah, I mean, like just to get this out of the way. Right, firstly, if you're thinking of things like, well, keepers, if you take a free list keeper, a secret army, or if you take loads of Terrorgeist, or if you take this, you take that, they're the best combat things in the game. You take that bullshit out the side. Blades of Khorne is one of the most combat effective armies in the game. It would take away the most like broken sort of stuff. Combat is their thing. Now, when you say like they're not a shooting army, they're not a shooting army. That's not what they excel at. But if you're sort of person that's like, well, I like to have maybe like one or two shooty things, just to maybe deal with a bit of getting rid of support characters, that sort of thing. They do have like an option of like a skull cannon. Now we're not going to go fully into a review of a skull cannon here, but like it has got like a one attack D6 damage thing. So if you do want to have one sort of shooty thing in your army, you can do that.
Yeah, you got like two of the Bloodthirsters have a little bit of range to them, like your big monsters for the army. So that's quite nice for their army as well, as you've got access to four, well I'd say four, what, six off the top of my head, big monsters. You got three Bloodthirsters, two of them add a little bit of range. You got the named character Scarbrand, who is a beast.
Yep.
And I think he also has a little bit of range in a breath attack.
Yeah, and just a little bit thing about Scarbrand. If you're a sort of person who go like, I love taking monsters, but every time I take them, the enemies hurt them so badly. So by the time they get to attack, they're so weak because of their damage table. Yeah, Scarbrand gets better the more damage he takes. So
yeah, he's one of the few monsters in the game that
has like
if you don't kill him, he's going to hit you harder.
Yeah.
Which most of the times, you don't want him hitting you hard, because he can hit really bloody hard.
Yeah, there's ways for him to do like 16 mortal wounds flat out and stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, I'd say one of the positives for Khorne is there's a lot of ways to get extra attacks in this army. It's not just, so you look at the profile and it's like, 2 attacks, that's not a lot. So Khorne has a way to up that to 4 attacks, 5 attacks even. There's a lot of ways in the Khorne army to just add more dice to what you're throwing.
Yeah, like you can say this a lot now, because like these days most armies have battle tomes, if not all armies have battle tomes. So it's not as bad as it was, but the point is still here. If you're looking at war scrolls for the Blades of Khorne army, you think, that's all right. You know, that's, I don't know, like Blood Breathers, they're all right. They're not too bad. They're not amazing. As soon as you just start chucking in some synergy there, Blood Secretors, Blood Stokers, everything else, like Skull Reapers can be made quite cool. There's a lot of synergy in this army. It's not just based off their war scrolls, which is nice. Something about the Blades of Khorne as well, we haven't already mentioned it, is when you look, like for example now I'm on Blades of Khorne on the Games Workshop website, as you can see, and they've got a large model range, particularly loads of heroes, but that's not everything that can go in the army. You can chuck in Slaves of Darkness in the army, that can take the Khorne keyword. You can chuck it, basically anything that can take the Khorne keyword you can chuck in the army. So Slaves of Darkness,
and they don't suffer from any lack of synergy.
No,
because it's all from the Khorne keyword. You can throw in your Slaves of Darkness in here if you want to go a bit more defensive with Chaos Warriors. You can put Marauders in here. Demon Prince.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people who feel like, I'm a bit like that, that's where you go, well, I don't want to go you know, Blades of Khorne, very combat effective, but I feel like I need a few things just to be able to sort of like stay strong and objective while everything else moves forward. Like, you know, like units of 5, like Chaos Warriors or something, just to be able to take a little bit of a hit, or just like bigger units of Chaos Warriors, just to be that more defensive part of your Khorne army. Because like if you've got a unit of 10 or more Chaos Warriors now,
Yeah, you've got access to
save rolls, don't they?
Yeah, I think you got access to some of the Beastmen that can do some fast moving and maybe some deep striking. You got Marauder Horsemen that could be your go-to quick objective grabbers.
A bit of shooting as well. You know, you've got that there as well. Not bad shooting either for what you would think.
Yeah, for 80 points.
Exactly. You've got.
When you're adding all that in, I think generally they've probably got the biggest list of models that you can build for an army. I think it comes to over like 40 odd units that you can pick onto the army.
Yeah, it's I don't know if it's the biggest because you've got like Skaven have got unbelievable amount in Stormcast, but it definitely is up there as one of the biggest. Like, but I know what you mean. Like one of the biggest armies that is like say put Slaves of Darkness in there. They're not allies; they are part of the army. Like the range is huge. So there is loads of what you can do with it. There is even conversion videos, which I think Warhammer TV put up for. I think Duncan did it. Apologies if it was Peachy, but one of them they did like how to make your Chaos Warriors look Khorne bloodbound, like so you can convert them all up if you're worrying that the aesthetic won't be there. And just something to say with Khorne as well, like you don't have to paint them all red. There are different
like schemes. With my battle times now, you got some sub factions in here. I'd say like probably a downside to the army is you don't have a lot. You got 2 for the mortal side and 2 for the demons. Be fair, all 4 are decent, but it's not like with a lot of the other battle times at the moment when you got an option of like 6 to 8 different sub factions that all have a different kind of play style. That's probably like I wouldn't say it's a massive negative because both of them all 4 of them are good. The 2 demon ones are good and the 2 Khorne mortals are good. But it is kind of, from when it came out, it just lacks a little bit the options as what some of the other armies do.
But it's books do eventually get more updates, so they will. The older books do sort of stuff, but it's not too hard, I suppose. You do have the Wrath of the Everchosen like campaign narrative book that came out a little while ago. There's a couple of allegiances in there I believe Khorne can go for, but I don't know if that now makes you not Blades of Khorne anymore or makes you something else. But you know there are different ways to use the same models.
Yeah, you still got a lot. You know, they got a nice terrain piece that got added to the army in the last update, which is always nice. It's a nice bonus, nice constant bonus for your army if you take certain units. And there's a constant, if you're not taking those units, you're still getting a constant effect against your opponents.
Yes, and like we say, we don't have wizards in the army, but we have got priests. They do prayers, and now you have like endless prayers as well, which are the judgments of Khorne, which are the things like the skulls that bleed, blood through their eyes. Also the
you got the giant axe, and then you got the icon of Khorne, which I'd say I'd say there's probably no downside to not having wizards. The priests, you can't unbind them, so it's only down to you failing, which is a good thing. On the other hand, they can still unbind your priests, so there's no negative. Kind
of the best of both worlds in that one.
Yeah, and then same with the judgments. The judgments they're not endless spells, so they don't move. Your opponent can't move them. Only you can move them.
Yeah.
So they're never gonna come back and bite you on the ass. And your opponent can't unbind them. So as long as you know, it comes down to you as a player. rolling the dice for them to stay on the board. As long as you roll well, which, you know, the luck of the dice, their effects are like always going to be around.
Yeah, it comes in a lot of dice, like be things like at the end of turn, roll dice and a 4. They go away, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not like when you're facing up against an army that has plus, you know, you can have +10 to cast. It doesn't matter. You're not getting rid of that.
Yeah, and so like I say, it's best of both worlds. But if you're thinking, well, if I don't have any wizards in the army, then I'm not going to get any of the realm spells. If I really are bothered about that, because like, in case you're playing like in the realm of fire, where there's like one with +1 damage and stuff, which is quite good, you know, very good, you know, situational, everything else. If you are worried about that, you can always ally in like a Chaos Sorcerer Lord from Slaves of Darkness. You know, so there are options there. So we sort of talked about a lot about the strengths of the army. What would we say are the weaknesses?
I'd say the weakness is that you can be I'd say you can be kind of slow. And obviously if you are going all out offensive, you're not really got defensive kind of units. It's not like you got bad saves across the army. You know, most of the army is 4 up, because your average save. But I definitely would say that you haven't really got no real save against mortal wounds in your standard Blades of Khorne. And obviously sometimes the weakness of shooting armies, if you can't close that gap, you can be shot off.
Yeah, it's one of those. Just a quick thing also to mention is like you have got a couple good things we didn't really touch upon. You've got like things like blood types, like we said. When things die in your army, you get blood type points, which you can use towards. Well, things die in your army or the enemy's army throughout the game units. You get points you can use towards like in-game abilities, and you've also got points that can be used towards summoning. And,
yep, you can summon your extra demons in. It's only demons that you can summon in.
Yep, I just wanted to mention that before we fully move on from that. So it's a strength they've got. Is it the best summoning mechanic? I would say no, but they have still got a way to summon things onto the board.
Yeah, as a Khorne player, when I was playing mine, and then you kind of see the like Sanesh, and I'd say even like, well, all the others now. Unfortunately, Khorne does have the weakest of the summoning, unless you build your army around getting more of these blood type points. Because if your opponent's running 40 clan rats, you can kill 39 of them, but if one survives, you're not getting no point. You're not getting a point for it.
No, or like I don't know, if I bring a unit of 9 crit flares and you kill 8 of them, and then I bring 5 back, you're not getting any points.
Yeah, whereas like Sanesh will have, God knows how many points they'll have. What, 30 points? They killed 5.
Yeah, like I don't know. It'll be high.
Yeah, I kind of feel like when we were talking about this before, I kind of feel like GW should have gone for models killed, you know, in some kind of mechanic rather than units killed.
Yeah, I think it should be. So firstly, you need more blood type points to summon things, yeah? But your blood types are how many skulls you reap. So
yeah,
if you kill like 39 clan rats, you're getting 39 points, but the closest thing to summon might be 20 points sort of thing. But if you claim the skull of a mighty monster, that thing's giving you like 10 points. So I think it'd be a cool system, but that's not what it is. But it could be something we see in the future. Like, it's not the best summoning ability, but it's not terrible. Like, you will still summon. Like, I've been in games, like in tournaments where like turn 4 the opponent summon a bloodthirster, and obviously that is like dependent on how the game goes. But you know, like he didn't win the game either, so he was having a bad game and he still managed to summon one of those. But
yeah,
no,
and the other side of it, the blood type reward table. There's some niche abilities in there, but there also are some really strong abilities in there. Like the one that stands out straight away would be for 2 blood tithe, you can automatically unbind a spell anywhere on the table. So if there's a spell that your opponent pretty much always wants, you can just unbind it. Yeah, you do have to do it before they roll, so you can't get to see if they fail anyway before you use this ability. But it is nice that obviously if your opponent really, really wants a spell for 2 blood tithe, you can just go, no.
Yeah. Which is cool. You've got, and like you say, you've got ways as well to just get an extra command point or something like that. So yeah, there are. I just wanted to. Sorry, that's sort of like a bit of an interrupt there, but it was just that I wanted to talk about. That's the main part of their allegiance ability, so just get that in there. But no, so like I say, weaknesses as well. Like they're not the best at shooting. It's one of those where like I say, to mention it again, like it is meant to be one of the most combat effective armies out there, like almost like the best. But you know, if you run them against that big Terrorgeist list or all those keepers, they are going to struggle. But I think that's more of a game problem than anything else. So
I think like obviously there's certain bits of stuff that don't really have. They have saves against spells on some of their units. They don't have a general mortal wound save. But then it is the fact of, because they've got such a wide range, you can put all these little things in. Because Chaos Warriors have a 5-up mortal wound save, so you can put them in. You have got, if you're against wizards, juggernauts can ignore spells. I think it's full spells on 4-up. They do have a good vast abilities because their range is so big. I'd say one kind of weakness is obviously fitting it all in. It is hard to fit everything into the army.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, especially when you have like lots of big models like this. From Forge World, there's even like the big Korhorn thing and the Demon Prince stuff you can put in as well, or like another Bloodthirst. There's so much you can only put so much in one list.
Yeah, you're absolutely spoiled for choice in the army.
That's never a bad thing, you know. Like I'm pretty sure Iron Jaws would love to have the same problem, or another army that doesn't have too many models to its name. So, but what that means is when there's only so much to put in a list, that means there's multiple lists you can come up with. It's an army that you can have thousands and thousands and thousands of points and run it in lots of different ways. There's lots of things that rock your style, sort of thing, if you like. Like I don't know, if you really want an army that is, okay, you know, I wish I had an army in Age of Sigmar that was basically massive bodybuilders coated in massive thick like demonic armor that ride huge demon engines that are sort of like shaped as rhinos. I wish I could have an army like that and nothing else in the army, just those things. You take Brass Stampede. Like there's lots of things you can do in the army.
That's probably a big positive for the armies. When you look at some other armies, like touch on Deepkin, the battalions are poor.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about Khorne is you got so many decent battalions in this army, and a lot of them are not that hard to build and defeating the 2,000 points. And like you say, like the Brass Stampede is 1 Khorne Lord on Juggernaut and 3 units of Skull Crushers. So easy.
Yeah, just and like, do you want to paint that many models? Well, that of the same thing. That's up to you. I think a question that people will be asking as well is, with a lot of these sort of armies that are like the Battlestone is Blades of Khorne, but it's got demons and Bloodbound there. Is it an army where I have to play Bloodbound or I have to play demons, or can I mix them? What are our sort of thoughts on that? Because that is sort of a big question I can imagine people asking.
You can definitely mix them up. Because everything kind of goes off there are some abilities from the demons that only affect demons. And there are some abilities that only affect mortals. But in general, you can mainly mix them. I personally would kind of swing to either just having the odd unit of either one into your list for like any kind of reason. So like for example, I'd play Mortals, but the Demon Prince is a very good hero, and like Flesh Hounds are really good. So if I'm playing, I'd personally go one or the other, but it doesn't mean that you can't slot in a few mortal units if you're playing demons to fill a specific role that the demons maybe can't just quite do. And the same with the mortals. I'd mainly build my army around mortals and maybe have the odd few demon units in just to do something that the mortals can't really do.
Yeah. So what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that it's an army where you want to, ideally, obviously, if you want to play narratively and all that sort of thing, do what the hell you want. But like sort of on a competitive standpoint, you want to choose out of demons and bloodbound which one is going to make up the bulk of your army, and then you can put in a few specialized units that have purposes. From like I said, if you're mainly bloodbound, you can chuck in a couple of units of demons or something, but they've got a specific purpose of what they want to do. If you want to play, like, I don't know, for example, just bloodbound, but you're just like, I quite like demons, but I don't know how I'm going to fit them on my list, always paint them up and then use them for summoning. You know, there are reasons to have models from both sides, and if you want literally your army to be half demons and half bloodbound, I'm sure you'll find a way to make it work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There are synergies that cross over.
Yeah, there are many synergies that still overlap. Especially if you're playing mortals, it's always nice to have some. Obviously, if you don't like demons, you don't need them for summoning. You have got 2 tables for the blood tithe. You've got your general bleed and the summoning. But on a competitive kind of side of things, you would want to have a selection of demons, because you never know what a game might need. You know, you might summon 20 bloodletters or 5 flesh hounds, and they'll win you the game.
Yeah. Just because you summoned it in that last minute, they managed to make that charge, they got onto the enemy, they've taken that one objective, and because of that, you won the game. And just having the option, just having the toolbox for your summoning purposes is, not just in Khorne, in everything else that can do it, is a massive thing that you want to be thinking about.
Yeah, it's always, you know, you might not do it every game, but it's always nice to have there, and it does always keep your opponent thinking, are they going to bring something on the table side? Are they going to bring something on there? Do I need to leave something back? It keeps your opponent thinking what's going to happen for them to make those mistakes, either leaving an objective or leaving a unit behind that could be effective somewhere else.
Exactly. So with that, I think we sort of talked a lot about what we both know of Khorne. And obviously, if you guys think anything different, you can let us know down in the comments. But what would you say to anyone who's still thinking, if they're still watching the video at this point, if they're still umming or ahhing if they should do Khorne? What's like your last thoughts on it?
There is no funner thing than destroying your opponent's army, and Khorne can do that perfectly, as we have many games before. It's either you die in glory, or you just have fun with everything dying. I'd say it's an army that you're not really gonna have a bad time.
From what I can say as an opponent to Khorne, because I haven't played Khorne certainly since points have been about, it's never been a boring game.
No, you know, I'd say it's one army that you're just gonna have fun either way. You know, you got units that you want to die. You have units that when they die, they still fight. So you can send them to die. Even your elite Skull Reapers, when they die, they still do damage.
Yes.
everything, everything just likes dying. You're
Uh,
either killing stuff, or when your things die, they're gonna maybe take something down with them.
and what I'd say, because it is a quite a offensive army, it's a fun army to learn to play. Because it's like, let's say you're brand new to Age of Sigmar and you've got Khorne, you literally you can use them where certainly you're starting off where you just go, right, I'm going to charge these 10 blood warriors of that enemy unit and see how they get on. I'm going to charge these 40 blood reavers over there and see how they get on. And then you go, oh, the 40 blood reavers are dead and half the blood warriors are dead as well. And you go, okay, well, next time I learn what their matchups are. Like, there is, but you've had a lot of fun because there's been a lot of killing involved and you've got points for it and everything else. Another sort of like last question to say is that, so if people are thinking about, right, starting the army, we have kind of got 3 ways you can start the army in like bundle boxes. We've got the Wrath the Everchosen, Realm of Chaos, Wrath and Rapture box, which was the latest box that had the like the new flesh hounds and stuff in it. So that is like Khorne demons versus Slaanesh demons, which is good if you like both armies or you want to split with a pal. We have that one. We also have a start collecting demons one as well, which has got 3 blood crushers in it, 10 bloodletters, and a skull cannon, so skull throne. And then we have if you're more of a Bloodbound Mortals guy, we have actually got what I mentioned earlier, the Khorne half of the First Age Sigmar starter box, which they put into a start collecting box, £50, which isn't bad, where you get 20 Blood Reavers, 5 Blood Warriors, a Bloodstoker, Bloodsecrator, Korkorath, and a Mighty Lord of Khorne, but quite a bit of that is like easy to build kits. So out of those 3 ways, what are your sort of thoughts of how you would start, Jamie, now that everything else has came out compared to when you first started?
Yeah, it is slightly different I'm not totally slightly different, but a bit different when I started. The Khorne half of the first box set is a great pickup, because you want Reavers. You're always going to have a use for Reavers. They're cheap units in the game, and then the heroes that you get in there are pretty much the mainstay of most Khorne armies. Most armies, you're going to have a Bloodsecrator. Bloodstoker is brilliant, and the Korgus Cull, or the other variant of him, the Mighty Lord of Khorne, is an awesome starting beast champ to kind of start your army with.
And it's got a cool fun ability where you can one-shot any enemy model.
Yeah,
like it's already just to start adding in like crazy fun abilities.
Yeah, you got a real good start in there. Like the Korgoth is a nice little monster that can put out good damage.
It's got a shooting attack.
One of the very rare shooting attacks in the Khorne army, which ain't terrible. And then the 2 demon boxes are, I'd say, both really good for the fact of you can pick them up for summoning. Kind of pretty much give you everything for summoning.
Yeah,
apart from like, I think you get 2 kind of people that can go on the Skull Throne or the Skull Cannon, so you can make your own Herald if you really wanted to.
Yeah, if you go for the Skull Cannon, you can make the guy a Herald, which isn't too hard. You just have to have him like stand on a rock or something. So really, to be honest, the Start Collecting Demons a Khorne box, and the Realm of Chaos, Wrath and Rapture box, fighting Slaanesh, they are actually very similar box sets. Literally, the only difference is
you get Flesh Hounds and Karagnak rather than the Cannon.
Yes. So I would say the Realm of Chaos, Wrath and Rapture box, like money-wise, is better value because the Start Collecting box is £55, and if you were to split the Realm and Rapture box set, that would be what is that? £47.50, I believe, in UK money. Obviously, you need someone to split it with. There's that, and I wouldn't say it's the easiest box set. So if you bought it and you only want half of it, I wouldn't say you could just sell the other half just like that, because it's been out for a while now. But it is. But if you could split it, £47.50 is, I'm trying to do this now, is £7.50 cheaper than the £55 Start Collecting Deans of Khorne box, which is a bit older. And
Yeah, and honestly, I'd prefer
you want the Flesh Hounds and Karkarak rather than
those
Bloodthrone.
those units. Yeah, because you still get Bloodletters, the Flesh Hounds, and Karagnak, and the Skull Crushers are better.
Yeah.
Blood Crushers are better choice, I'd say.
Yeah, well, you get the Blood Crushers in the other box anyway, but with this, instead of the Bloodthrone, you're getting the Flesh Hounds and the what's his name? Karkadrak? What's his name? It's not Karkadrak, is it?
Karagnak.
So, and if you're wondering, like, well, how much value is that? Well, you can debate if they're worth that much money if you bought them separately, but like the Hero Flesh Hound is £20, and then the normal Flesh Hounds are £30. That's like £50, and just
so you get an extra 10 Bloodletters and the Blood Crushers as well.
Yeah, and even if you're like, I don't really know how I'm fitting my Blood Crushers and my list and my Bloodletters, like, you go, well, it's just summoning pool for when you need it.
Yeah, that's what me and you actually split that box, and that's what my idea of splitting it was. That one, I can run them in a demon list if I want to make it a demon list, or then because before this box I didn't have any summoning, and when the new summoning rules came out, it's like I need summoning now.
Yeah, it's
otherwise I'm kind of missing out on some of my abilities.
Exactly, you are missing out because you're not making the most of it. It's like I don't know, like
it's like on a competitive side. Obviously, it doesn't matter if you're not a competitive player, but when me and you are kind of playing armies against each other in a competitive sense, I needed to have some demons to summon.
Definitely, especially when it's a case of I'm fighting you and I go, I'm going to summon this unit, and you go, wish I had something to summon. It's like, and you're just looking at all your blood type points, going, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could be using them for something good right now. But rather than just having the Bloodthirster to summon, it'd be quite good to have some like middle ground units that are probably easier, rather than going turn 5 might be able to summon the thing. But no. So I think we've pretty much covered everything in a very jumbled up way. But I think it's because we both care about this army a lot. That's why we sort of ended up talking about the Khorne Dragon for a long time. But so there we have it, folks. So there are lots of ways to start the army. We've sort of gone over the strengths and weaknesses. Like we say, we haven't gone loads in depth with every unit, everything like that, because we didn't have that much time today, which I understand we probably have been talking for longer than we should, but still shorter than like 2 hours or something. Hopefully.
And in all honesty, there's so many units to go through if you wanted to.
It's far too many to go through. In a when I do like the massive Age of Sigmar archive, when I review all the armies eventually, Khorne will happen, and then maybe we'll have you on one episode or something. We can talk about a couple of your favourite ones, but for now, that is it, guys. So they're a really fun army. They're also an army that doesn't have, as far as I'm aware, not anymore, like any stigma going, oh, you don't want to play that army, do you? Because like that always it's broken as anything. It doesn't. And I mention that a lot in my videos just because I'm sort of fed up with those sort of armies. And you can have lots of fun
like we've touched on this in the video. They're an army that no matter who you're playing, you're going to have a fun time. I think it's an army that you're going to enjoy the game. Lots of things are going to die, and you just want carnage.
Yeah. And on that, I would say they're not referred to, as far as I'm aware, they're not referred to as being the most competitive army out there, but they can certainly win their games. So it's a nice, fun, you chuck these against ogres or something like that, or knight. It's a good, fun army, and it's an army you're just really going to enjoy to play. So, right, well, with that, I'm going to thank you very much for watching us. If you did enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below, as that massively does help the channel. Massive shout out to my patrons as well for supporting the channel as much as they do. Really does help me produce as many videos as possible, and also a thank you to you, Jamie, as well, for joining me in this video, as well as the Deepkin one you did. It's been great having you on to sort of talk about these armies. Me and Jamie will
happy to be here, mate. Thank you.
We need to have time limits on these videos though, because I don't know, we'll have a game in an evening which is meant to be 2 hours, goes on for about 5 because we don't stop talking, and then we'll talk about everything else in Age of Sigmar, then Lord of the Rings, and then Game of Thrones until about 3 o'clock in the morning. So we need to have like sort of time limits on. There's one time when you had a game around mine, didn't you? And you didn't end up leaving until so late that you didn't actually go to sleep. You just went to work the next day.
Man, I do regret that.
Just that junction. If anyone knows Junction 8 on the M20 in Kent, just there having a Maccadee's breakfast, going like, so many regrets. But I believe you probably won the game more than likely. So
I made so many.
so many wrong decisions.
Worth it if I won a game.
I imagine you probably would. Jamie does tend to win the games. I'm sort of mainly the meme from the Joker and the Dark Knight, where it's like, do I look like I have a plan? But no, I digress. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. Remember, stay safe. Don't leave your homes. Wash your hands. All that sort of jazz. And thank you very much for watching. And remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.